Meeting will come to order. I would like to welcome the audience to the July 19th, 2011 Parish Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Would you all please stand while Coach Williams says the invocation, Pledge of Allegiance.
Our gracious Father in heaven, we come thanking you for another blessed day and another blessed opportunity to take care of this business. We pray for guidance and protection of this board and also this staff. We ask that you would bless those who have come seeking a solution to a problem. Let the Holy Spirit guide us and lead us that we might do it in a respectable way in your sight. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Christie, would you please call roll?
Chair David Connor.
Here.
Vice Chair Jake Porche.
Here.
Mr. LaSalle Williams.
Here.
Mr. Frank Webb.
Here.
Mr. John Duhan.
Here.
Mr. Ray Taylor.
Here.
Mr. Whit Baker.
Here.
Mr. Gary Barr.
Here.
Ms. Betty Brown.
Here.
Ms. Latricia Cobb.
Here.
And Mr. Elijah Gilman.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. This is an 11-member board. It will take a majority of those members present to grant or deny any request heard tonight. The meeting will be conducted with me reading the request from the agenda. After a motion to approve is seconded is received, the planning staff will clarify the request and report their recommendations. If the applicant would like to add to the staff's clarification, or if someone from the audience has comments, please come to the microphone and state your name, address, and the nature of your request. All persons wishing to speak other than the applicants needs to fill out a blue card, a request to appear form located in the back of the room. Bring that up to the staff. I recommend that a spokesperson be selected if there's a group wanting to speak on the same agenda item. We reserve the right to limit our speakers to 5 minutes. After discussion, the board will vote on the request. I will announce the decision of the board after the vote. The zoning exception and variance cases are final tonight. The meeting is being taped by the Calcash Parish Government Channel and can be viewed on Wednesday and Thursday following the meeting. For additional run dates, check the website at www.cppj.net, and that shows on Channel 5 in Lake Charles and Sulphur, Channel 61 in Moss Bluff and Westlake, Vinton and DeQuincy, and Channel 99 in Corliss and Grand Lake. If you'll please turn off your cell phones and pagers. Item number 5, take appropriate action to approve the minutes of the June 21st, 2011 Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Motion, please.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Taylor, second by Mr. Porche. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 6, take appropriate action on case EX03-016-11, a request by Lakewood Bible Fellowship of Lake Charles for a zoning exception to allow commercial development at the daycare at 3938 Burton Lane in Ward 3. I'll accept a motion for approval with stipulations.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Duhan, second by Ms. Cobb. Ms. Wallace.
This property is located near the city of Lake Charles and encompasses just under a half an acre of R1 single-family residential zone property. The petitioners currently operate a kindergarten in conjunction with the church that's near this location, and they plan to sell this property to Mr. Kyle Fontenot, and Mr. Fontenot intends to convert the use into a daycare that would be for 25 to 30 infants, and he would also have 6 employees at this site. Because daycares are not allowed by right in this zoning, the petitioner would have to have an exception granted from the board in order for Mr. Fontenot to move forward with his plans. The staff recommends that the request be granted with the stipulations that the development adhere to the site plan on file, that a 6-foot wooden privacy fence be installed along the north property line, that all parking and drives be hard surfaced, and that entrance and exit signs be installed prior to issuance of an occupational license.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Do we have any comments by the applicant? Okay, state your name and address, please.
Kyle Fontenot, 4425 Somerset, Lake Charles, Louisiana, 71605. Thank you for considering the request to allow a zoning exception for the daycare, first of all. Basically, the way it's operated now, it's a pre-K or kindergarten for Lakewood Bible Church. They carry 25 to 22 kids there on a normal school basis. It really is not going to change any as far as the functionality of the facility. We're just basically focusing, our niche is going to be from infant care, 0 to 1 years old. So you won't have any children outside like you do now. You know, they have like a playground area in the back, it's fenced in. We won't really have any of that. It's all going to be infant care, really. We're focusing on a niche from 0 to 12 months is really what we're doing. As far as the traffic through the neighborhood and such, it's relatively going to be the same. I mean, the facility only holds about 25, 27, 28 kids anyway. So as far as that goes, you won't have any really difference there. We're just really changing the function of it. And since it was a nonprofit before, I guess they qualified under the zoning the way it is now. So changing to that profit, you know, as far as a profit entity is why we're having to do an exception. As far as the staff recommendations, we had that we consider maybe waiving the 6-foot fence because we won't have anybody outside. We have a hurricane fence that encompasses the whole rear of the house. It's a residence that was turned into a daycare or a kindergarten. And as far as the driveway and stuff, there's actually a solid road base there now that's been used for about 10 years. As far as the drive coming in and out, we intended to expand that and adding about 3 inches of 610 road base to the surface course there to kind of pretty it up and give us a little more area to park on the edges of it. So, but it's got the drainage and everything's already set up and it's draining towards the street already, so there's no problem there. Those are the 2 things I would ask to consider as far as the staff recommendations, if we could. And the sign entrances, they're fine.
Okay. Questions from the board? Mr. Taylor.
The fence you're talking about, now, there's no, you're saying that you're going to keep the infants up to 12 months, but there's really, that could change in the future without really having to come before this board, my understanding. So
it wouldn't because of the capacity of that facility. You know, it's such that the size is small to where our intention is not to do that because we couldn't as far as the capacity and still be profitable. What it is, I guess, in the daycare market, you have different price ranges that you're in based on the age group, and our age group is such that it's going to be a little higher fee base than what the normal daycares are that carry all the way up to, say, 4-year-olds. And a lot of them don't focus on that. That's where the need's at. A lot of them only have, say, 6 to 10 beds or even less for the infants, and that's where the waiting list come up and everything like that. So we really don't have that type of facility around Lake Charles, or not that I'm aware of, that focuses strictly on that age group for child development, yeah. But that's not, our intention is really not to do anything beyond that age group.
Comments by the board? Questions? Okay, Mr. Fondo, we may call you back up. We'll let a few of the others come up who've asked to speak. Mr. Bruce Braca.
I'm Bruce Braca. My address is 3939 Burton. With the pictures that you had up there before, you showed my house, which in fact is exactly across the street. There it is right there. When I look out my driveway, I see the driveway of the proposed daycare center. 2 concerns, and I'll make it brief. Traffic is one concern. You were just told that the church was operating a daycare center. My impression is that the church is no longer operating that daycare or school center there at the present time. So what we're looking at is an increase in traffic, anywhere from 50 to 60 cars a day, if you consider pickup and drop-off. If we're dealing with infants, then the transition time from stopping your car to picking up the infant is going to be a little bit longer than it would have been for younger children who could be walked out to the waiting cars. So I'm anticipating that there's going to be a backup of traffic on that Circle Drive or possibly on Burton. I don't know if that's a great deal or not, but it is a concern, especially for access into and out of my driveway. More important than that, though, what I'm seeing is basically opening up the neighborhood to what amounts to commercial development. Right now it's a residential neighborhood. There's 3 churches in the neighborhood, but there's no commercial development. it just seems to me that this would be opening up the door down the road possibly to other types of commercial development. And my conversations with different neighbors, nobody was interested in that sort of scenario. Not to say that that's going to happen, and it would be in the future. You have to decide what's happening right now. But I think you need to keep that in consideration and keep the residential neighborhood characteristic intact. Any questions?
Question by the board, Mr. Duhon.
This house, there's not a church on that property.
No, sir. The house is in the parish, the church is in the city. The dividing line is on the property line.
I got you. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. We'll clarify this up here. Can we get a clarification on whether the church, the boundaries, which is in the city and which is in the parish?
If John could put up the zoning map. Oh, okay. I apologize. We have it in our packets, the zoning map. If you notice, this is the property that the house is on that would be
Pick it
used
up a little
as
bit.
the daycare. And then down here is where the actual church location is. And this hatched area is the city limits. So all of the yellow is within the parish's jurisdiction. So the church is within the parish.
Okay.
But the house is not.
The house is.
The house is. Yes,
And the church is within the parish?
yes. If you could see this, I'll hold it up for the
Okay,
folks in the
I
audience.
see it.
This is the location of the house where the daycare would be operated, and the church is down in this area, but anything that's yellow is in the parish.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Have Reverend Richard Beckham.
Thank you for considering the proposition. I'm Richard Beckham, reside at 1312 Stanley Road in Lake Charles. Our property obviously is the 2520 West Sale property, which is Lakewood Bible Fellowship. We speak on behalf of this change. I don't think there will be any appreciable change in the traffic flow. That is a concern the gentleman expressed. We've had approximately 25 students there and have operated it as a K4, K5 for the last 9 years. To my knowledge, there's never been any kind of complaint, either noise or otherwise, that's ever come to our attention. We don't anticipate that's going to change. If we thought that it was, we probably would not be interested in that change ourselves. I would say that daycares, by their very nature, need to be in close proximity to the communities they serve, and that it actually enhances the development of communities to have daycares in close proximity. So we would appreciate a positive vote for this consideration. Thank you.
Questions or comments by the board? Mr. Duhon?
How did y'all come about this property? How did it become possession of the church?
About 10 years ago, the property was put on the market for sale, and because it was adjacent to the church property, we bought it. And we have been operating it, as I say, up to this present year as a K4, K5 facility.
Other questions or comments by the board? And how long has this thing been out of operation? When did you close the school down?
Just this current year. I mean,
In this year?
we operated up until the summer months.
And I think you said it, how many students did you have?
From 20, it varied, but 22 to 25 in that range over the course of the last 9 years.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Frank LaFaso, please.
Yes, my name is Frank LaFonso. I live at 3923 Burton Lane. I'm familiar with the church and the daycare that was there. Most of the traffic that came to drop the kids off before this particular thing came up, they would drive through the church parking lot, drop the kids off there, and the kids were all, that was all part of the church property. And this is no longer going to be the case. It's going to be a separate entity, and that will throw a lot more traffic on the Burton Lane, which Burton Lane has become a cut-through street from Sale Road to Prehan. And there's a lot of traffic there in the mornings and the afternoons. That area has been a residential area for many, many years. And any type of commercial development, I think, opens the door for something down the road. As in the case of the, I hate to see anybody fail, but if something should happen and the daycare close, then the property is zoned commercial and anything can come in there. But again, the traffic that was there before came through the church parking lot.
Any questions, comments by the board? Mr. Taylor?
I guess this would be to y'all. Can we put a stipulation on this that if it does, you know, it does come up for sale later on because they did fail, that we revert back to residential R1?
Well, also, I heard the man say that he wanted to not have the 6-foot fence. I think it's proper that between any kind of commercial development, if you so decide that this should happen, that a privacy fence be installed, and that the rules and regulations be followed as far as for commercial applications.
Okay, Mr. Taylor has a question for the staff about the, state your question again?
Well,
about the zoning
can we
issue?
put a stipulation on it that,
Well, the stipulation is already proposed that the development adhere to the site plan on file, and you aren't actually considering a rezoning, it's just for an exception,
Okay.
and that exception is limited to the use of a daycare.
okay.
Now,
To this
if the exception is granted tonight, then Mr. Fontenot could always sell the business to another person that would like to run a daycare at this facility.
So there's no
so-
stipulation as far as, that it stay a daycare and only operate as a
Well,
daycare?
the exception would only be for a daycare, but it's not for Mr. Fontenot, it's for that location to have a daycare.
Right, and I understand what their concerns are. They don't want somebody to come in and maybe open up a convenience store right
Right,
there or something
right.
like that. I mean, I agree that daycare helps with the community. I mean, I had my kids in daycare, and it's nice having it right close to the house. They're not too far. But, I also understand you don't want to,
Right. But the property is going to stay residentially zoned.
I think what they're, go ahead, Jake.
Does this open the door for, maybe typically it's, we're looking at a smaller facility now, limited traffic, 20, 25 kids. If they put an addition off the back of this thing, it's technically a daycare, it's an exception. They can come before us then and try to make an addition, then we have other problems that could start snowballing.
Well-
How would we handle that? We would just wait till they come to pull the permit at that time? And
Well, to modify the site plan, if they wanted to add on to the house that's going to be used for the daycare, they would have to come before all of you and request that the site plan be modified. Now, if Mr. Fontenot decides to add 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, there's no control over that. But if he wants to modify the site and the size of the building and things like that, he would have to come before you for a hearing.
Would you maybe speak a little bit and to clarify? I think their issues and their concerns are by giving this exception. I think the comments were we're opening this up to commercial development. I think what we need to say is that this is for this property only. It does not affect any of the other properties. Could you speak about that a little bit?
Well, it is for this property only, and if we go back to that zoning map that I held up that's all yellow, within our zoning ordinance, there is a safeguard against people just coming in and rezoning property to commercial. When you're surrounded by residential zoning, you can't just come in and rezone to commercial. It's very strict about that. So you would be setting a precedent to allow a daycare or a very light commercial use. There would be the potential that maybe the house next door just as an example, maybe that owner wants to come in and have a hair salon there, but they would have to come before you for an exception, and you can make that determination. But I think when the staff was deciding what our recommendation was, we weighed heavily on the fact that this structure had been used for a private school for a number of years. And so the precedent has already been set for a school to be there. It's just changing the type of school.
Okay, thank you. Quentin Brown, please.
Thank you for your consideration. My name is Quentin Brown. I live at 1494 East Tank Farm Road, Lake Charles, Louisiana. And I am a charter member of Lakewood Bible Fellowship. And there's two issues that I was going to speak to. The first one was the commercialization of the area. I think that's been addressed. I don't think I have anything to add to that except that any further commercialization would have to come before this body. The other thing that I want to speak to is with regard to traffic. This property is approximately 400 feet from the church property, maybe 300 feet from the driveway of the other property. It's not to say that there was never a time when traffic for this property went through the church, but many times it did not. The majority of the time it did not. For example, rainy days, I mean, you wouldn't walk your children, the small children, across there. So there was definitely traffic for this property that would have gone to the Burton, been on Burton Street. So I really don't think that traffic will be that big of an issue. Also, I think the benefits to the community having this facility there will be a big plus. Thank you.
Question or comments by the board?
I just have one
To do,
comment. I know when I agree, I don't.
I'm sorry, is this question for?
No, I was
Mr.
just
Burton.
saying,
Okay, thank
I
you, Mr.
agree with him. I don't think traffic's a big problem when you're looking at the few number of cars. I think the problem is, anytime I look at zoning, if we're putting in a mobile home park, I'll look at a map, and if there's one down the street next door, I'll say, well, you already got one, there's no problem. If I put in a hair salon next to you, say, well, you got a feed store here, we'll allow this hair salon. So there is a precedent set when you start commercial in an area, and I think everybody looks at it. I just wanted to comment on that.
Mr. Porcher?
Is there a stipulation that we can put that the exception cannot transfer ownership, or the owners, as long as it's operating under the church or owned by the church, next year they couldn't sell it to another.
Well,
In the church.
Right.
Right.
The
This
church
is
would
an
sell to
individual
Mr. Fontenot, but if you all wanted to impose that stipulation that it's only for his purposes, for him to run this daycare, y'all could do that.
Ms. Porcher, you do that by an amendment to this motion to only allow this to continue as long as Mr. Fontenot owns it, if you so choose.
Do.
You making a motion? Okay. I have a motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Taylor. Would you state the motion again, please?
What I wrote is that a stipulation be put in place that the business not be transferred to another owner.
That the exception not be transferred to another owner. Correct. Okay. All right, questions, comments on the amendment? I have an amendment and a second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment passes. Okay, we're back to the main motion. Any other comments or questions on the motion as amended? Ms. Wallace?
I do, just for a point of clarification for the record. Since it's owned by Lakewood right now, we just want to make sure that the record is clear that the exception is for Mr. Fontenot.
Okay. Is that stated that clearly in Ms. Christie in that motion? That this is by this petitioner? Okay. Everybody okay with that? Questions or comments by the board on the motion as amended? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Roll call vote, please.
Okay, roll call, Ms. Christie?
Mr. Forshea?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
No.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Navarre?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Cobb?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
No.
No.
Mr. Gilreay,
Yes.
and Chair Comer.
Yes.
Were we voting, I'm sorry, were we voting for the?
The main motion, as amended.
Oh, the main motion, okay.
8 for, and 3 against.
Motion passes. Thank you. Yes, sir.
One thing to note, the Kyle Fontenot versus is actually going to be a corporation that will own it. It'll be Third Option is the name of the corporation that I'm part of.
Okay,
They
and
just
we
put me
we
on
have
it.
stated that
Okay.
this will go with the petitioner, okay?
Okay, so I didn't know if that mattered, if it was my name or.
We'll
the
clarify
corporation.
that in the,
Okay.
thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Item number 7, take appropriate action on case EX 03-017-11, a request by Bert and Julie Parham for a zoning exception to allow commercial development, a convenience store at 3015 Highway 3059 in Ward 3. I'll accept a motion with stipulations.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Duhan and a second by Ms. Brown. Ms. Wallace.
This property is located in the Old Town Road area and encompasses 3/4 of an acre of agricultural zone property. And at this location is an existing building that was previously operated as a convenience store. The store has been closed for at least 10 years, so it lost its non-conforming grandfathered status. And the petitioners would like to reopen the store. They will use the existing building, the existing parking, and the existing sign. They plan to operate the business 7 days a week between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. They'll sell food, beverages, including packaged alcohol, along with bait and tackle. As I said, there's an existing building. It's 40 by 60. There's 13 existing hard surface parking spaces and a sign. And to move forward, the petitioners will need a zoning exception to allow this commercial development. The staff recommends that the request be granted with the stipulation that the development adhere to the site plan on file and that entrance and exit signs are installed prior to issuance of an occupational license.
Okay, any additional comments by the applicant? Question or comments by the board? Have a motion for approval. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 8, take appropriate action on case VA 01-011-11, a request by Park Dell Terrace Partnership for a zoning variance to allow a third on-premise sign on 396 Highway 378 in Ward 1. I'll accept a motion for approval with stipulations. Motion by Mr. Taylor. Second by Mr. Gilreay. Ms. Wallace.
This property is located in the Moss Bluff area and encompasses about 10 acres of central business commercial zone property. There is a shopping center that's located here. It's on the corner of 378 and Parish Road, if that's correct. And there's multiple businesses there, including Market Basket. And the petitioner has been allowed to construct 2 freestanding signs on the property, and I think you have pictures of those within your packet. And currently, there is a Taco Bell that would like to locate at this facility and construct their own sign separate from those 2 that are permissible. So in order to do this, they would need to receive a variance from the board to allow this 40-foot monopole sign. And the staff recommends that the request be granted with the stipulation that the development adhere to the site plan on file.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Comments by the applicant, Mr. Laborde, are you here?
While he's coming up, can I ask?
Go ahead, Mr. Duhan.
Jennifer, a question. Where will the actual location of this commercial site be? Because there's several commercial rental buildings in there. Do you know the exact location of it?
Yes. It's where Movie Gallery was.
Okay, on the corner.
But if you look at your packet, you have this horseshoe shape.
Right.
It's this little building that's right on the western end, and the sign would be just on the west side of the
corner.
building.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Sir, your name and address, please.
My name is Charles Laborde. I work for Koja Signs from Bunkie, Louisiana. I'm here with Mr. Tommy Guggenheimer, and I'd like to defer my speech to Mr. Tommy and let him go ahead and speak, and I just
Okay.
may want to add.
Tommy, name and address, please.
Thomas Guggenheimer. I live at 2263 Brady Road in Terrio, Louisiana. And I'm here representing B&G Food Enterprises. I'm the Director of Facilities and Maintenance. And we're requesting this variance due to the fact that our business is going to be put so far back in the old movie gallery that we really don't have much visibility from the road. And this third pylon sign would really be instrumental to our business if we could if we could get it passed, and I appreciate all your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments by the board? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have Tommy, oh, this is you, Tommy Guggenheimer, I guess, huh? Never mind. Okay, have Mr. David Reinauer, please come forward.
My name is David Reinauer. I live at 813 Shelby's Drive in Lake Charles. I simply represent the owners of the shopping center. Wanted to put my name in the hat in case there were any questions or any comments. Seems like it would be good to have someone representing the owners here to let you know that we're serious and interested in the request. Basically, it's a long stretch of property, and there's a sign on the other corner where Parish Road is. There's a pylon sign toward the middle, and this is on the other end. We think it's compatible and should not be an issue. Thank you very much.
Any question or comments for Mr. Reinauer?
Yes, I
Go ahead,
got
Mr. Duhan.
Closer to 378, I think it's a snow cone stand?
Yes, sir.
Is that will remain there?
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions for Mr. Reinauer? Thank you, Mr. Reinauer.
Thank you very much.
Other questions or comments by the board? I have a motion for approval with second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 8 passes. Item number 9, take appropriate action on case VA 04-012-11, a request by John and Stacy Perry for a zoning variance to decrease the accessory building setback requirement on the north property line. It is required to be 3 feet. They're requesting 0 feet at 1335 Killdeer Drive in Ward 4. I'll accept a motion with stipulations.
Motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Taylor and a second by Coach Williams. Ms. Wallace.
This property is located in the Sulphur area and encompasses just over a half an acre of R1 single-family residential zone property. The petitioners recently built a 25-foot by 44-foot accessory building on the property to be used for personal use. The accessory building was built 4 inches over the property line, and you all do have a copy of a survey within your packet that illustrates that. The petitioners would like to remove the 4-inch overhang that goes over the property line, and that would result in a 0 lot line setback. And to do this, they would still need to have a zoning variance on the setback. The petitioners would like to install gutters to prevent stormwater runoff onto the neighbor's property, and they need the variance to vary from the required 3 feet to 0 feet. The staff recommends that the request be granted with the stipulation that the development adhere to the site plan on file and that the gutters be installed within 60 days of zoning approval.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Have any additional comments by the applicant, Mr. Perry? Okay, Mr. Perry passes.
I have a question.
Question, Mr. Duhan?
Didn't they have to make permit and provide
A site plan?
site plan?
Yes.
And we didn't catch it, or they didn't catch it, or?
I believe that they added this on. I think the applicant can probably elaborate some more, but I think they may have had some extra concrete, and this was an idea that they moved on. They didn't realize that they needed to get permits, but they can elaborate more on that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Duhan, would you like me to ask the applicant to come up, please?
Please.
Mr. Perry, if you don't mind.
Your
name and address, please.
I'm sorry?
Name and address for the record.
Oh, John Perry, 1335 Killdeer Street, Sulphur, Louisiana. The original plan was just the shop, and then when we poured the slab, we wanted to incorporate for a boat storage, and the restrictions from the neighborhood states a 15-foot variance from the property line, so the building is over 15 foot. So I assumed that the wall was with the 15 foot had to be from the property line. I didn't know the roof would incorporate the 3 foot. I didn't know there was a 3 foot variance for the parish. I wasn't aware of that.
The numbers. How close to the property line is the building?
Well, the actual building is 15 foot 5 inches from the property line, which is in accordance to the restrictions for the subdivision.
Okay.
That's the actual building, the wall.
Okay.
If you look at the picture, the roof actually extends to the corner, to the driveway, which is about 10 to 12 inches. The cement is 10 to 12 inches from the property line, but the overhang on the corner is 4 inches onto the neighbor's property.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Other questions, comments by the, questions from Mr. Perry? Go ahead, Mr. Baker.
Mr. Perry, I noticed on the other side of your property, you have 10 feet from lot 52. Was your property sold to you like that, or?
Yes, sir, I purchased it.
Yeah, but that was at the time you bought it, or you had to buy it later, or?
No, I purchased it prior. It was in the original agreement.
Any other questions, Mr. Perry? Thank you, Mr. Perry. I have Ms. Shane Duplichamp, if you come forward, please.
My name is Shane Duplichamp, residence 1343 Kildee. Thank you all for consideration tonight. A few points that I have against the issue. There's a request for 0 feet side yard. Would not be in any sort of favor to future home buyers of either property, family heirs having to deal with legalities of a 0 foot setback. A variance less than 3 feet is not something that's precedent in our neighboring neighborhoods. The properties there don't have such a variance. The development modifications, to my understanding, were not permitted originally in the site plan, the original site plan. This addition was taking place ad hoc and results, as you see, for 4 inches onto my property. The lot line survey was executed post the error being caught and reported to the Perrys. With corrective action impending, specifically in reference to them maintaining and managing the proper offsets on all 3 other lot lines, I believe 3 foot in this instance is definitely reasonable and should be maintained. I do agree with the recommendation for gutters to be put in place due to the close proximity and the amount of concrete on the property line, and that's about all I have for tonight.
Sure, do I understand you're the property owner next door that, okay.
That's correct.
Questions, comments by the board? Yes, sir, Mr. Duhan.
Okay, let me get, the Perry stipulation states, how far from the property line must his building be?
Accessory buildings shall not be built less than 3 feet from a property line. So it has to be at least 3 feet,
So
and we consider
could
that
be up to
3
3
feet to
feet.
be open to the sky.
Right, straight up and down,
Right.
right. Okay,
No overhangs within that 3 feet.
I got you, thank you. That's all, the only question I had.
Thank you, Mr. Duhan. Mr. Porsche?
Did the initial site plan, can we confirm what the gentleman just said? Did the initial site plan include this building at all?
Yes, it showed the building, it just didn't show the open air carport.
And the roof.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Navarro?
So the roof line is over the neighbor's property? Sounds like you need to sell him some property, bro.
I'm happy with the parcel that I have.
10 foot, 5 foot, something to make him legal, or he got to tear it down, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, I understand. But my septic system's on that side, and that puts me with having that property line out infringing on my mechanical system.
Man, living in here, we gotta have pretty good education, he's the rules and regulations.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Duplichamp? Thank you, Mr. Duplichamp.
Thank you.
Mr. John Bruni?
I'm John Bruni. I live at 1314 Kite Street, the property right behind John Perry's property. And my only issue here is that, you know, the house is a complement to our subdivision. And granted, the roof is over the property line. John has said he'll do whatever the parish asks him to do. And I agree that if he moves the gutter back 4 inches, the roof back 4 inches, puts the gutter on there won't be any water, any fall on Shane's property. And all I'm here is to support John in the fact that we think that the house is very complementary to our subdivision, and it can be fixed with common sense. That's all I've got.
Any questions of Mr. Bruni? Okay. Okay, questions, comments by the board?
I have a question.
Mr. Navarro?
We allow, what is the state fire? If somebody comes in and builds one 3 feet on his property, on this other gentleman's property, what's going to happen if they have a fire?
Okay. Mr. Duhon?
Well, a comment. The neighbor purchased his property in that subdivision with the understanding of the restrictions as to where the neighboring house would be. Now, that's been violated. It's closer than what he thought it would be to his house. That's my only comment.
Mr. Taylor?
I had a quick question about the opening where you plan on putting the, stored the boat. It looks like it's 14 feet wide. Is that correct? How do you plan on taking the roof down and moving it, or?
Are you asking address to Mr. Perry?
Yeah, Mr. Perry.
Mr. Perry, would you come up, please?
We actually have a drawing that we could pass around. I don't
Okay,
know.
go ahead, Mr. Taylor, if you'll ask him your question.
Well, that was one of the questions. How are you going to take away that 4 inches? That was I think she has a drawing that'll show.
Yeah, I have,
Oh, I apologize. This drawing is actually, if it doesn't pass, what their option is, what they could do. But the 4 inches, Mr. Perry can,
and what our plans are is to take it back probably about 12 inches to where I can still put the gutters, but I'm trying to incorporate the look. I don't want to distort the look of the building. For that, I'm working with 2 different contractors, if it passes, to take that back to where I can still get the look, but to get it off of Shane's property, and also for the runoff, and also for the fire, was the reason was it because it was an open wall for your fire question is the way I understood it, because it was
Open wall now?
Yes.
Yes, it is an open wall now.
What's to stop it from being closed later?
You have to come before the chair.
Mr. Taylor has the floor.
So you'd have to cut it similar to that right there, instead of taking the whole the whole hip roof back.
Yes, sir. That's what the intent would be, to try to take it back 3 foot, the poles and the roof line.
Okay. Mr. Gilry?
Is the concrete in the boundary?
Sir?
The concrete on the bottom,
Mhm.
that is in the boundary?
Yes, it's about 10 to 12 inches from the property line. Okay. And it's an extension of my driveway.
but the concrete, if I could just jump in here, is not the issue.
I understand.
It's just that 3 feet has to be open to the sky, yes.
So it's only the overhang
Miss
that's.
Ms. Cobb, I'm sorry, go ahead. You have a question?
I said it was only the overhang is what.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Okay, any other questions or comments from Mr. Perry? I do have one question before you leave, Mr. Perry. Anybody else? I'm not understanding here. He's telling me that the concrete is within 12 inches of the property line. So we cut back the eave. If we don't allow the variance, he has to bring back roof line and concrete.
Concrete's the roof.
No, the concrete can go up to the property line.
Okay.
What the issue is just that it's not
to the air.
open to
I
the
got you.
sky for
Okay,
3 feet.
I understand. Okay. Any other questions or comments from Mr. Perry? Thank you, Mr. Perry. Okay, any other questions, comments by the board? Go ahead, Ms.
Mr.
Wallace.
Chair, if I could just point out, again, I want to state before I even mention this, that we don't regulate subdivision restrictions, but just as a matter of information, the Perrys were able to modify their subdivision restrictions because of this situation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion for approval with stipulations. With a second. Mr. Duhon's asking for a roll call. Ms. Christie.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Duhon?
No.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Forshee?
No.
Ms. Cobb?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
No.
Mr. Webb?
No.
Mr. Navarre?
No.
Mr. Gilry?
Yes.
Chair Connor?
No.
5
Motion fails. Item number 10, take appropriate action on case VA 06-013-11, a request by Manuel Ray Bro Sr. for a zoning variance to allow residential development of manufactured home with less than required public frontage. What is required is 100 feet. They were requesting a 50-foot frontage on Route 66 in Ward 6. I'll accept a motion for approval with stipulations.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Duhan, second by Ms. Brown. Ms. Wallace.
This property is located in the DeQuincy area. It encompasses approximately 20 acres of A1 zone property. And as Mr. Chair mentioned, the property does have 50 feet of road frontage, but is required to have 100 feet of road frontage in order to be developed for residential use. Zoning approval is required for the gentleman to proceed with his plans, and the petitioner's grandson has recently placed a 14 by 68 manufactured home on this property, and they do need your approval to get the proper permits. The staff recommends that the request be granted with the stipulations that the development adhere to the site plan on file and that the manufactured home be skirted prior to utilities being connected.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wallace. Any comments, additional comments by the applicant? Okay, comments or questions by the board? Have a motion for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 11, receive an update from staff about the Unified Development Code. Ms. Wallace.
Well, thank you for allowing me to give you my monthly update. The review process is going very well. We've already held 5 meetings of our citizen review panel to take a look at the draft that we've put together. We have 2 future meetings of the review panel. We have one for this Monday, July 25th, and then we have another one on August 22nd where we hope to present a modified draft that has resulted from all the input that we've gotten. And we are receiving lots of great input. We've been making changes along the way as we go along. So the draft that you receive after August 22nd is going to be different from the draft that you received in May as a result of all this information that we're receiving. I know that a lot of folks see the Unified Development Code as being a big change in the way we do business. And, you know, there are some modifications and changes here and there, but I would like for people to really recognize that the intent is not change. The intent is improvement on things that we're doing well now. We're hoping that with this document, it will help all of you to make decisions in the future. It's going to provide legal basis and purpose statements that you can look at to decide how to rule on the things that come before you. It's also going to provide a lot of consistency and predictability for citizens and developers that come here. And very importantly, it's going to protect the rights of property owners, especially those that are nearby neighbors to new uses in the area. And we hope to do that through dust-free parking surfaces and landscaping and buffering and things like that. So there's a lot of things that are integrated in there that protect people from things that other folks do that might negatively impact their way of life. So with all that being said, I'd just like to encourage y'all again to participate in our meetings. I know a lot of you live out of town and might have vacations planned and not be able to make it. So because of that, we post all of the videos, all of the information on our website. It's www.cppj.net. And we welcome any comments, any suggestions. We'll consider everything that's submitted and include it on a feedback document that we're putting together that will go to the review panel on August 22nd, and it will also come to you so that all of you can see what our citizens asked for and whether a change was made, or the staff will respond as to why we didn't make the change. So every comment that's submitted is given serious consideration. But if you can make it, we'd love to see you on the 25th and again on August 22nd. If you can't, please take a look at what we've got on the website.
Where's
I
this?
appreciate
Where are
you.
the meetings?
They're all at Preon Lake Park at Harbor's Edge Pavilion, held from 5:30 to 7:30 on those 2 dates.
You said the August 22nd one is, that's the final proposal you said would be presented, or?
That would be the revised draft. Nothing is ever final until the police jury adopts it.
Well, okay.
So obviously there's a possibility that changes might result from that particular meeting, and then we'll present it to all of you at a later date for your consideration, and then probably a month or so later, we'll come back and maybe ask you for an adoption, and then it would go to the police jury. So there's still plenty of opportunity for changes to be made and for folks to give us their input.
And also, what would, I guess, just to, for you to make that offer, I guess, you can come sit down and talk, and sit down with the staff and kind of go through these components. Sometimes it takes that kind of a dialogue to have these discussions. We're almost done, guys. To have these kind of dialogues, so or to have that kind of understanding, so that I know they'll make that time welcome for you. We've got some time left. We've got some discussions that need to be made, but we are impressed with what the staff's been doing, and we appreciate the public input. It's been very lively. It's been very informative, and I think it's working. So thanks again for all what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
I'll accept a motion for approval of the staff report.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Duhan. Second by Mr. Williams. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next item on the agenda. So advise that the police jury took the following actions on June 23rd, 2011, with reference to the recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Board of the June 21st, 2011 meeting. The applicant Miller on Tallow Road, P&Z granted, and police jury upheld. Next item on the agenda is to advise that the next regular scheduled Planning and Zoning meeting will be held on Tuesday, August 16th in the police jury room at 5:30, and I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
We have a motion to adjourn in a second. We are adjourned.